It's almost time for all of this to be over. All the draft talk, the speculation, all of that. It's going to be over pretty soon here. But before this ends, I have to submit my final mock draft. So what will my final mock draft look like? Well, let's talk about it. But before I talk about that, I want to make sure you guys hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and ding that notification bell so you can be notified when I upload. Also, so you can be notified when I go live for the first 2 days of the draft. Again, you don't want to miss that. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you're notified. Also, want to give a shout out to the patreon.com dog check tier members. And as always, I start with Michael Matique, the most dangerous man in Cleveland, DJ Marino V, Cleveland Cart, Matt H, Greedy Shoulder, Gemini, Liam Freeman, Fight Dirty 74, Yo, Matt Lloyd, Paul Wilcox, Hundo, Magnifico, Rob Ferron, Kyle Stouffer, Lukey from Munich, Deveroff, J Guy 101, Musty Taco, Joe Bobby, Brad Cabo, Dylon W, James McGinty, Arinda Hall, Rex Kaufman, Chad Gimme, David Maldonado, Andrew Sadeo, Dylan Hill, Josh Bendor, Jalil Salim Jr., Martha Crustnut, Mark M, TJ Showman, Stuart Moore, Bubbo Regretti, Anthony O, Cleveland BCI, Robert Jermaine Jr., Dave Mike May, John Cummings, Andrew Hirsch, Curtis Bear, Batman Rush Sharir, Barack Kumar, John Albert, Beerman 069, Masayua, Buds of Roland, James Nemo, Mac House, Reeve Hurst, Philip Wilcoxon, Marie Vivert, Keith Anderson, Sean Barron, Goggles Bizano, Corporal Nick Lopez, Dom Gazillo, Nick Nasty, Ian Williker, Colin 216, Anthony Latham, Christian Matt Bond, Dave Strong, Michael Stone, Soul Train, Charles Work, Billy, Michael Holdenack, Moose Gentry, Austin Z, Mark Burnett II, Andre Griffin, Otis Wolf, IT Rex, Greg Ehlers, Austin Boland, Kirkabard, Jesus Serrano, Chris Fawn, Pickdown, Browns Backers, Mark Kahn, Johan Hulf, Kevin Johnson, Max Aldojo, and Water Bear Marketing. Again, guys, thank you so much for your support. It truly means a ton during the offseason and regular season to have you guys have my back. Now, let's jump into these mock drafts. What's up, y'all? We're going to jump into these mock drafts. We're going to do this the same way I did 2.0. How did I do 2.0? If you're new here, and also if you're new here, hit the subscribe button, ding that notification bell. But if you're new here, what I did for 2.0 was a 3-round mock draft. I did 2 3-round simulations, just the Browns picks, to see what I can get there at 26. And then I'm going to do 1 full first-round mock draft. And that's how this whole thing is going to play out here. Let me go and set up this 3-round mock. Okay, we're going to play with this and do that. Okay, well, let's play with the stock. Let's see what Pro Football Focus got with the stock things. And we're going to select the Browns, obviously. And we're going to go on here and start this draft. All right, everything's normal. Trevor Lawrence. Justin Fields, okay, that's actually a good pick. Is Trey Lance gone? Devonta Smith, Micah Parsons. Ooh, Micah Parsons that early. Caleb Farley, first corner off the board. Okay. I know some people are going to comment because they see a pick here they don't think it's going to happen in real life. We have no idea where any of these players are going to fall with the nature of how this draft is going. So, honestly, the most unrealistic pick that you see here could be the most realistic pick in this entire sim. You don't know. Nobody does this year, all right? So, now we're at an interesting point here, right? Because J.C. Horn's off the board. Kwity Paye just went off the board. So, feels like we're going to have a run of corners and edge defenders within these next 10 picks before the Browns go. Now, again, if this happens in real life, maybe the Browns trade up here at 18. Maybe they find a partner with the Raiders. 20, you might be playing with fire there at 20. I don't know if you're going to be able to get your guy at 20. It depends on how the rest of the board lines up. But those are some possible spots that the Browns are going to really want to pounce on, because then you would have an opportunity for a Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, a Jalen Phillips, Azeez Ojulari still on the board here. No J.C. Horn, but still Greg Newsome. You have an opportunity to take not a premium, but a very valuable first rounder at a position not of need, but that would be of significance. Since this is the first one, I'm going to let it play out here. All right, Gregory Rousseau, Christian Darrisaw. This is rolling good for the Browns. All right, Owusu-Koramoah is off the board. Mac Jones at 20. Who? Mac Jones. All right, at 20 at Lovera. Jalen Phillips. Christian Barrymore at 22. See what the Jets do here. Azeez Ojulari and Rashard Bateman. All right. Now, luckily, Greg Newsome's still on the board. We have a deep list of guys that we like. I think about 6 guys at positions of significance. But again, this is why, if you really want to land one of these guys that you really value, right? An Azeez Ojulari, a Jalen Phillips, or a Kwity Paye. Like if you value a edge defender in this year's draft, they're probably not going to be there at 26, or at least there's a possibility of them not being there at 26. So you might want to move up if you see an opportunity where it wouldn't be too rich for your blood to do it. That being said, we lucked out. Greg Newsome's still on the board here. So I'm going to just draft Greg Newsome. We're going to go to the second round here. I'm going to speed this thing up because I am not doing draft trades in the second round. That's overdoing it. All right, so we are here at pick 59. We got some decent options available. Jamin Davis. Elijah Molden, he's smaller for a safety. He's like 5'8". That's not necessarily what I'm looking for. Jabril Cox, my number 5 rated linebacker in this class. Jamar Johnson, who's interesting. But Elijah Moore is sitting right here. And I'm going to just take Elijah Moore in a second. You're going to need somebody you're going to need a plan for the X wide receiver, either to give Odell rest or when Odell's contract ends in a couple of years, right? You're going to want somebody you can insert at that X wide receiver. Right now, the Browns have a ton of Z and Y receivers, so slot in the second wide receiver position, but they only have the one X wide receiver, right? Maybe you could say JoJo Natson is an X wide receiver, but that's not optimal at this point. Since that is the case, I do think he makes a ton of sense here. And look, we lucked out. Jamin Davis, my number 2 linebacker in this draft, he's still here. We're gonna take him. And we already got a corner with Greg Newsome. So it would be overkill to get Kelvin Joseph, who I also like here. But, I just don't see anybody else that I like or feel strongly about. I know Kelvin Joseph, there's a little bit of a character concern there. He got kicked off of LSU, ended up at UK. But let's take a gamble on an incredibly talented cornerback. And look, if Caleb Farley is going in the top 10 in this draft scenario, then Kelvin Joseph is not really that much different than Caleb Farley, because there are huge questions around both of those players. Both are talented. Both have similar flaws. I'm gonna go Kelvin Joseph here. And that is the end of the first mock. Got Gregory Newsome, Elijah Moore, Jamin Davis, and Kelvin Joseph, who PFF does not like for whatever reason. I do like Kelvin Joseph, and I like him a lot at 91. So I think that is a good draft. A little bit of a logjam there at corner. Greedy, Greg, Kelvin, all trying to get playing time in year one with a already kind of loaded safety room. And you still got Denzel Ward on the roster, but now you're covered. Look, if Denzel Ward gets hurt, you got Greg Newsome, you got Kelvin Joseph, you got other guys, Troy Hill, who could step up and play outside corner as well. So you have that versatility and that insurance at the back end. And that's why I think it would still be a strong move to take 2 corners if you really like 2 corners that you roll up on. All right, we're back at this again. 3-round mock. I changed the settings up a little bit, so we might get more chaos, less chaos. Let's see what we get, man. All right, we're going to start this off. All right, no chaos so far. Justin Fields. Kyle Pitts at 5. That is the one pick I don't want the Bengals to make, right? We've been joking around with the whole Panay and Chase, Jamar Chase thing. But I've been so happy to see that Kyle Pitts has not been in that conversation, because Kyle Pitts is an actual problem for the AFC North. So yeah, not happy that the Bengals did that one, but that is ultimately good for them. And they might swing around here and get a tackle, and that might work out. But Kyle Pitts, a tight end who can chip and receive, that's going to help alleviate some of their line issues just a little bit. And on top of that, he's just a tremendously talented receiver of the football. I think he's the best receiver of the football in this draft. But don't at me at that one. All right, Patrick Surtain, Jamar Chase. Pause. Mac Jones, 12. I always pause at Mac Jones. All right, so we're at pick 12, and we're just trying to kind of navigate the field here. They love Caleb Farley at 10 to the Cowboys. That is interesting. That is interesting. This second time they've done Caleb Farley at 10 to the Cowboys. It's interesting. All right, so we're going to go here. Let's see what we have at 15. And, boy, this is a great situation for the Browns, right? If you get to pick 15, and let's just assume they're going to go, J.C. Horn. All right. So, less great situation, but you saw at 14, you had all of your guys available there at 15. And even at 15, but even right now, you're looking at 18, 19. You have a lot of room to trade up. Luckily, there's been no edge players selected. But, look at all these teams coming up. They're going to go edge, or they would be likely to go edge. Pittsburgh might go edge if they see somebody like New York might go edge. All these teams right here in between the Browns and this pick 18, are going to want to take defensive players or edge players at the very least. And if that's the case, if you really want one of these edge guys, you might have to move up. Now, that's not a guarantee, but you might have to move up. Let's see. Let's test that theory out. I'm going to see what happens here at 26. Quiddy Pay, Greg Newsome, Gregory. Oh, man. Like flies, they flew off the board, right? Quiddy Pay off the board. Nah, I don't really care about Gregory Rosu being off the board. Greg Newsome off the board. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah off the board. Terrence Marshall off the board. Okay, well, do that. All right, but at edge, we're actually sitting pretty good, right? You have a choice between Azeez Ojulari, who I like very much, and Jalen Phillips, who I like very much. But I do think Jalen Phillips is number one in this draft class as far as edge goes. So I'm going to take my number one edge defender. Ooh, Azeez went to the Ravens. That's pretty good for them. All right. We're going to speed this up just a little bit. Elijah Moore. All right, let's see who is going to be available at pick 59. All right, so in this kind of scenario, right, where not a lot of my second round targets are here, I would love it. I would love right now to trade. I would love right now to just trade back maybe early into the third and then take one of my third guys, or take three of my third round guys there and get some extra value. But since that's not the case, and since nobody wants to offer me a poor little trade, I'm just going to have to take Jamin Davis in the second round. And see what happens to me now with my other two picks. All right, so Kevin Joseph is there. I know he's going to be there. Jamar Johnson is there. I have not taken a DB yet. I'm going to go double DB. Jamar and Kelvin. All right. Trey Sermon. Who Trey Sermon go to? All right. So that is the second mock. Jalen Phillips, Jamin Davis, Jamar Johnson, Kelvin Joseph. PFF didn't like this one as much as my last one. I'm not really taking too much stock into their mock draft grades. They seem to have a weird algorithm going on with that. So we're going to now do all the teams, and we're going to do this manually for the first round. And we're going to start with the Jaguars, who this is no mystery, right? Trevor Lawrence, number 1. Zach Wilson, number 2. 3 is where the draft gets interesting. I have said my piece about this. Look, I think Justin Fields in a logical world is probably the second best quarterback prospect in this draft. And there's actual arguments that you can make that he might be a better and more pro-ready prospect than Trevor Lawrence. I know it's blasphemous because how Trevor Lawrence has been hyped up throughout this draft season, and same thing with Zach Wilson. But, I do think there's an actual argument to be made there. Now, do I think that's the right argument? Probably not. I think Justin's issues, I think he needs a half a season before he's ready. Trevor, if you put him in the right system, he's ready to go right now. Zach Wilson, have no idea what to think of Zach Wilson, to be honest with you. But I know he's going number 2. So number 3, I don't think San Francisco would go Justin Fields here. They just don't seem to like him for whatever reason. And then you go to Mac Jones and Trey Lance. And if the choice is between Mac Jones and Trey Lance, it makes way more sense to go Trey Lance here because, Trey Lance is not ready to go. but you have Jimmy Garoppolo. He can sit for a year and legitimately sit for a year because, look, nobody in San Francisco has watched enough North Dakota State to be out there in the stands cheering for Trey Lance to get in the game. Like, that's just not a reality. But if you are a San Francisco 49er fan and you got Justin Fields on the bench who you watch tear up college football, or Mac Jones who you think tore up college football, even though he's always had like the best wide receivers in all of college football all on his team, like 5 deep, you're going to be more willing to call for those guys because you're familiar with them. Nobody's familiar with Trey Lance. I went to a FCS school. I went to Youngstown State. I watched Youngstown State football. I'm still not that familiar with Trey Lance, right? He only played the 1 season at North Dakota State. So with all that being said, it makes the most sense. I don't know if it's the right pick. I don't know that much about Trey Lance, but that makes the most sense. All right, number 4. If Justin Fields is there at 4 and the Atlanta Falcons do not trade him, then one, Justin's going to have a complicated relationship with the football fans of his home state because they keep not selecting this dude, right? He went to Georgia. They chose Jake Fromm over him. And then, he goes to the draft. He has a real possibility of being there at 4. The Falcons kind of need a quarterback, right? They got Matt Ryan for now, but Justin Fields is somebody that can take over for the future. And if Green Bay can draft a quarterback when they got Aaron Rodgers, Matt Ryan really ain't that safe. So for Justin Fields and his complicated legacy with Georgia football, I'm just going to put him there at 4 and right that wrong, right? All right, so we have 5. And look, the Bengals have everybody they could ever want on the board. Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitt, Penei Sewell, all these guys that they would love to select. And they trade back. No, I'm not going to do that to them. But they're in a good position here, right? You can go Kyle Pitts. You can go Penei. You can go Devonta Smith. You might go Jamar Chase, right? It seems with every tea leaf that I've been able to read that it's probably going to be Jamar Chase. But I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into this whole thing. Draft day swerve number 1, they go Rashard Slater because Slater is somebody you can more easily put at guard while you try to figure out what you got with Jonah Williams and, whatever they're going to do with Riley Reif at 32 years old for 1 year. Now we got Miami, who now they got Penei on the board. That makes a lot of sense for them to go, and they're going to go Penei, right? Those tackles probably going to go back-to-back, I would think. But if they don't get selected at 6 or 5, like if those teams decide to go with one of the very talented skill players at 6 or 5, that to match up with their college quarterbacks, right? Tua with Devonta Smith and Joe Burrow with Jamar Chase. By the way, I think that's a very archaic way of thinking about it, right? Where you're like, oh, we need to pair this guy up with the dude he balled with in college in order for him to get the most out of him. I just don't know if that's the right way to think about this, but that's how teams are going to go about it. But if those 2 tackles don't go at 5 and 6, it's a very real possibility they could fall out the top 10. I don't know what that means for the Browns. The next pick comes from Detroit, and they're going to go Jamar Chase here. The Panthers are on the board, and they have wide receiver, tight end, cornerback listed as their needs. They're going to take Patrick Surtain here. They're going to take the best corner available. And now you have the Denver Broncos. And I know what everybody's saying. Hey, Mac Jones still on the board. Denver Broncos, they're at 9. But remember, it's John Elway making this pick. John Elway would absolutely select Justin Fields. He would absolutely select Trevor Lawrence. He would absolutely select Trey Lance because those are the type of dudes that John Elway loves, right? The bigger, more athletic but the guys who remind him of him in his mind, right? That's who John Elway seems to like to draft, right? We've been through this with Paxton Lynch, Drew Lock, all these dudes. Now, Mac Jones, he's a lot of things, but in my opinion, again, this could age like milk. He's probably not somebody John Elway thinks of and thinks they have a great deal in common, right? Now, whether that's right or wrong, I am not here to say. I'm just saying that seems to be the case. So, no, I don't think they go Mac Jones. I think maybe if Justin Fields falls to him, Trey Lance falls to him, they'll take him. But Other than that, they're not taking Mac Jones. So now they're looking for a linebacker. They're going to go Usu Koromoa here, right? Because I think that is the best linebacker in this draft and the best fit for Usu Koromoa. So I think he goes there. The Cowboys, now they're kind of like the Bengals, right? The Dallas Cowboys might have had the worst defense in football history last year. And it would be almost insane to not draft a defensive player. But look at the offensive skill players that they are looking in the face and saying no to. Kyle Pitts, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle. Like all these dudes that could make a huge difference. And technically tight ends in need. You could talk yourself into it. But man, you had one of the worst defenses in football history. And I just don't think you can let that one slide, right? You got to get a defensive player. J.C. Horn at 10, right? I know Kyle Pitts would be fun. Devonta Smith would be almost insane. But y'all got to do something, right? And I wouldn't be surprised to see the Cowboys actually go offensive line here because, quiet is kept. Their offensive line play has been kind of bad the last few years. Despite them being the Dallas Cowboys, everybody kind of assumes they have good offensive line play. But that's the top 10. We're going to kind of fast forward and get to where the Browns are picking here. All right, so we're back here at 26 for the Cleveland Browns pick. Let's kind of recap what happened while I skipped up. J.C. Horn, of course, went 10. Christian Darrisaw, there was a huge run of tackle. Now, this is probably not realistic, but there was a huge run of offensive linemen. It just went in this portion of the draft here because you got a lot of teams with just bad offensive line play. And here's the thing with offensive line play. And here's why, whenever you see me on Twitter arguing with Bengals fans about why it's kind of ridiculous to wait to the second round to address offensive line is because, look, there is a dynamic going on in this draft that's kind of dangerous for teams that need offensive linemen, which is the last 2 or 3 drafts, right? Well, not last year's draft, but last 2-3 drafts prior to that really had a lack of offensive line talent. You know what I mean? Like there's been a little bit of a drought of good offensive linemen entering the league, which is why, 3-4 offensive tackles went like almost in the top 15 last year, if I'm not wrong. And that's still continuing, but it's even worse now because now you have more teams that are realizing that they don't have a good offensive line, which could lead to a massive run on offensive linemen in the middle of the first round because that's just where a lot of these teams are. Now, that being said, Jalen Waddle went 12, Landon Dickerson, Tevin Jenkins, Devonta Smith at 15. Oh, boy. Now, this is a crazy mock. I'll be honest with you. This is not really realistic and not reflective of how good I think these players are because I think Kyle Pitts is the biggest problem in this draft. And you see he went 17 to Baltimore. It just so how I was filling out the draft, he just happened to slip there. And I was like, man, if he slips past 15, Baltimore is trading both those picks, getting a pick swap, doing what they got to do to get Kyle Pitts because that's exactly who they kind of need in that offense, right? You talk about a tight end who can also be a receiver, a tight end who you can use in the red zone like a receiver, a tight end you could just use like a receiver. They have all those receiving woes and all those short guys on their wide receiving crew that ain't really been that useful, but who has Lamar really ate when he's thrown to? It's been his tight ends. Whenever he has great tight end play, he usually does pretty well from the pocket. Kwity Paye at 21 to the Colts, Dylan Reduns, Caleb Farley at 23, and now we're at the Browns after a run on tackle, and they are just going to walk up to the board and take Azeez Ojulari, right? That makes a ton of sense. Let's just end Micah. Well, not right now. Now we're not going to end Micah Parsons' slide yet, or Christian Barmore's slide. I feel like the NFL set up Mac Jones. Like I don't think in reality there was a team in the top 5 that was seriously going to draft Mac Jones, but they let these rumors get out crazy. And again, I'm probably wrong. Mac Jones is probably going to 3. But if he does not go 3, where does he go? I don't know. Like, he might have been set up to be that guy who they just put the camera on in the green room as he just falls and falls throughout the draft. Like, it just reminds me of Geno Smith, right? When he fell to the second round, it was kind of embarrassing for him. He had to come back the next day in the second round and walk across the stage. They don't give you, by the way, a jersey if you get drafted and somehow you're in the green room for the second round. They didn't give you a jersey when Geno Smith they gave this man a helmet to pose with and a ball cap. Like, that's just, I felt so bad for Geno Smith at that moment. But Geno Smith memories aside, let's have the Raiders do something. They're going to get with Trayvon Moehrig. That makes sense for them. Micah Parsons finally goes here at 28. That makes sense for them. Elijah Moore here at 29. That makes sense. Edge defender, I need the Bills to do something bad. So there you go, Jason Owa. There you go. Shout out to all the Jason Owa fans in my comment section. I know y'all love the way I treat Jason Owa. And look, maybe Jason Owa might be a great edge rusher. Maybe, but not very likely. Let's see here. Let's just make Bengals fans mad and get all the tackles off the board. The Raiders are panicking for whatever. Okay, got Baltimore. The Raiders are panicking. They took both Baltimore's pick. Alex Leatherwood. They're going to get Alex Leatherwood here. And then 32 for the Buccaneers. They're going to take Christian Barmore off the board. All right, and that's it. We're not doing round 2, but that's round 1. You can look at it. I'm going to scroll up and down it again so you guys can check it out. Trade up for Baltimore. Browns get Azeez Ojulari. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think is going to happen in the draft? Do you have a surprise scenario that's going to happen for a team or a specific player in mind? Let me know in the comment section below. But again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Have a good night.